Let me take you to Ejura, where the bags of maize are rotting away as farmers struggle to find buyers. Weeks without rain have worsened the situation, leaving farmlands parched and forcing many producers to consider abandoning cultivation for the next season. Emmanuel Bright Kweko visited the community where farmers are demanding urgent, pragmatic solutions to the crisis and filed this report.
It's Monday morning at Ejura, one of Ghana's largest trading hubs for cereals and grains. From groundnut and beans to rice and maize, the market supplies thousands of households across Ghana and beyond. But in recent times, maize has seen a sharp decline in sales.
The fresh maize sells at 500 cedis, and the old ones go for 450.
These new prices, coupled with a reclining market sale, are presenting challenges to the maize value chain. The farmers and traders are not enthused as they are seen all over haggling the new prices. Farming is a lifeline of Ejura and its surrounding communities. On a scorching afternoon, Idrisu Mumuni and his family are busy drying freshly harvested maize. They spread the grains across a tarpaulin, relying on sun and air to reduce the moisture content. With no storage facilities, the family must rush to package and sell the maize on the next market day. But for Idrisu, the returns hardly match the efforts he invests in production.
The maize business isn't good enough. For rich farmers, they are able to keep theirs. But for us who have no storage facility, we must sell immediately.
After the 2024 dry spell, the price of maize has fallen by more than half, from 1,200 cedis to just 400 cedis on the market. Yet, with production costs soaring, the sharp decline has left many farmers frustrated and delusioned. Ghana experiences a glut of maize during the main crop season from June to September. But despite the bustle and noise of the crowded Ejura market, traders say business has been slow and their pockets tell the story.
It looks as if stealing is better than farming. Every time they are talking about cocoa, they would neglect us. Our work is more hectic than the cocoa farmers.
Frustration on the market is preempting the farmers from producing more. While some have opted to hoard the maize at home, others are compelled to leave the heaps of their maize harvest on their farms at the mercy of the weather. Salifu Al-Samin farms on this 40-acre maize plantation.
The ones we sent home, we've not been able to sell it. So there's no reason going to add this one.
I can see they are even rotting away.
Yes, of course. We've covered it because we anticipate there might be rain.
Former Member of Parliament for Ejura, Mohammed Isifu Pangabu, is one of the lead farmers in the community.
No farmer can break even with 400. No farmer.
This year, lots of farmers will lose their...
All farmers are losing. Our parents are lost. So if you don't take time to address it, and we'll lose this year, next year, the farmers will reduce.
As the traders endure the slow market, a pressing concern emerges: delayed rains.
For the past 2 weeks, we have not experienced any major rain.
This is felt on the fields where the soils are drying up already before farmers can plant for the next season.
So we explored this further with Ejura Manye, farmer and agribusiness analyst, and we'll also be speaking with the Executive Director for Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana, Bismarck Norte. But let's begin with Bismarck, who has joined us live on Zoom. Bismarck, it's good to have you here on the news desk. You know, we understand that we've been battling with high food prices consistently. We've seen inflation, with food inflation being one of the key drivers consistently. With food being rotten in Ejura, is it a clear sign that our supply chain structure has broken down amidst the threat of food insecurity facing us now?
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity, and let me say a good morning to viewers. I think that is quite a very mixed and difficult situation. I say mixed because we know, on one hand, the government is working hard to ensure that there is low prices of food so that consumers use them. On the other hand, too, you also want a situation where the low price of food should not lead to a farmer's loss of income. So how do we balance the two to ensure that, yes, there's low prices, but it is not at the extent of the smallholder farmer? And I think that that's a situation where we need to find solution to it. If you look at the current drop in prices, saw that your documentary was focused on maize, but this goes beyond maize. Across the country, we have farmers who are into the production of cowpea, tomatoes, onion, rice, where the prices has dropped significantly. In fact, the scary thing about it is that the current market prices are unable to even make the farmer break even. And that's the danger of the situation now. The problem for the average smallholder farmer is that because he or she do not have the capacity to store this food in anticipation to sell them later, he or she is compelled to sell them now. And for fear of suffering additional losses because of post-harvest, he is now compelled to sell them at very low prices. In fact, as of now, there are some areas that a bag of maize is going for as low as 200 Ghana cedis. And this is the middlemen and market people who are doing that. So it's a very difficult and depressing situation for farmers. And I think that we need to have a clear direction, a clear structure, a clear mechanism for produce like cereals, maize, rice, and all those cereals. That is where we know that NAFCO should be coming in and doing the mop-up very well.
I want to understand from you.
But I think
it's interesting to note that Ejura is a very thrivable marketplace for maize and is one of the key regions that supply hugely across the country. Why is it that it's been quite difficult to mobilize private sector players to set up warehouses, processing plant close to that region? What are some of the factors that you think is discouraging that particular approach?
I think there are a lot of factors accounting for it. You know, one of the key industry players that deals a lot with maize will be the poultry farmers, for instance. And you would have expected that poultry farmers should be able to hop onto the situation and then mop up the maize in the system. Now, the situation is that even the poultry farmers themselves, they have their own liquidity challenges. So they are unable to mobilize the resources to purchase the maize at prices that are competitive for the smallholder farmer. So the farmer is now looking at avenues where he or she can sell the maize to a buyer who can buy for him to be able to recover his cost and make profit. So that gap has still not been filled. Over the past, we've had instances where, because the borders were a bit opened, you have persons coming in from neighboring countries into the country to purchase the maize. And these people, they come with very good money. So the farmers sometimes prefer to sell to these people because they can now recover their costs, make profit, as against the local people who are not able to do that. So the reason why sometimes we try to disagree when government issues a blanket ban is that you need to find a mechanism to agree on a price that's very competitive for the farmer, so that when you issue the ban, the farmers knows that inwardly I can still sell the maize and make profits. But if you're not able to do that, then what you are doing is that you are creating a system where you are restricting people from coming into buy. But locally, you've not created any mechanism to ensure that the farmer is not shortchanged. And I think that is where the gap is, and we need to find a way to fill that particular gap.
Okay, I'll get back to you very shortly, Bismarck. Thank you for your insight as well. We are still being joined by Enyonam, who is the farmer and agribusiness analyst. Enyonam Manya, it's good to have you here on the news desk. I want to understand, this is not the first time we've experienced this. Maize, tomatoes, onions, all of them have been the key struggle. Why is it that we've not been over the years had in place storage facilities to ensure these are kept for a long while and even supplied to the rightful market?
So good morning to you and good morning to all your viewers. Good morning to Bismarck on the line. When it's come to issues with low patronage or issues with farmers struggling to find buyers, it's not a unique situation to Ghana. It's an African challenge. It is a challenge for smallholder farmers that find themselves across Africa. But let's focus on lack of access to market information. You see, in the farming ecosystem or in the season of farming, we have times and season for trends of commodities that are in excess and commodities that are in demand. Now, when our farmers are going into production, one would ask, do they take into consideration these factors that, okay, at this time when I'm going to produce maize or tomatoes, onions, or eggplants, is that what is in demand presently? And what are the prices looking like? Is it what is in trend or is it what a lot of people are buying? In the absence of farmers having access to this information, at the end of the day, this is how we are going to be discussing this same problem year after year. And it is really, really about time that something is done about it. I realized you asked a question in the area of infrastructure. How can we put up infrastructure in certain regions where they are known for producing huge volumes of a certain commodity? I think it's about time we take a critical look at this. We have to begin to add value to some of the raw materials that we produce. I remember quite some weeks ago, I was from Sogakope. Watermelon was in season, and on the stretch of Adan East District, you see a lot of melons lined up around the streets, and they are being sold at 15 Ghana cedi, 20 Ghana cedi, as low as 10 Ghana cedi. But the question one would ask is, would that farmer be able to recoup what he even used to produce the crop, not to talk about profits? So I think that Ghana, we've come a long way when it's about agriculture and agribusiness. We are only doing the food production and we are neglecting the business side of the production.
Now, speaking about neglect, and I want to get from you, is it the case that we have always sidelined there's demarcation between policy in the books as against the real farming on the ground, and we fail to synchronize the whole structure on how to implement it? Because it appears the farmer is far stretched. You made mention of lack of market information. We've invested so much in agribusiness projects. We've known about farming for planting for food and jobs, phase 1, phase 2. All these challenges still persist.
I agree with you that there is a little problem or challenge in terms of policy making or implementation. I've always had issues with when stakeholder engagements are done and they always consult commercial farmers. Bismarck, on the other hand, and his team deal with peasant farmers, the 2-acre farmer, the 1-acre farmer. The question is, when policy are being, drafted to be implemented, how many of these smallholder farmers are consulted to pick up their thoughts, to pick up what is the challenge and how can they be factored in these policies? So at the end of the day, if we end up, or if the ministry or stakeholders from government perspective would always engage commercial farmers, what they need to do their work. It's not what a smallholder farmer needs. A commercial farmer has an off-taker abroad, overseas, and he's always shipping or exporting containers, 20-footer, 40-footer container. How about the farmer who has just 1 acre? How about the farmer who has 2 acres? And we all agree that most of our farmers are semi-literate, or some of them cannot even use digital media. That is the platform that now a lot of us young farmers are leveraging to do marketing. And so because farmers have that challenge, it is very, very important that when government are about to make any policy or implement any policy, the smallholder farmer will be engaged. We heard some time ago about warehousing that is being put up or constructed in certain regions. What have become of these warehousing? Are they being in use? Have they been abandoned? Can something be done about these warehousing so that farmers can keep their, harvested produce well kept under the correct temperature, and when it's time for selling, they can release them to sell? I think that we have to stop the talk shop and take more of action now, because it is very expensive to go into farming in this day and age in Ghana. Okay, so if farmers would have to go through the hustle, the pain, wait for these rains to come, plow the land, buy the necessary inputs, and produce, and at the end of the day, they'll be struggling for markets, then I think we are doing ourselves a lot of great disservice. There are a lot of things that we...
Yes. I want to get from you, now that the farmers are threatening in Ejura, are threatening to abandon farming, what will happen to my Kose, what will happen to my Kenke, my Chozafi, that possibly this afternoon I'll be going to enjoy for lunch, and also possibly now that these key maize, which is quite prominent in every dish in our homes, what will happen to them in the next 6 months, if possible?
That simply tells you that those who are going to still be in production will sell at higher prices. And the question is, will the ordinary Ghanaian be able to afford if the prices of these produce shoot up and it becomes very expensive for them to buy? Then we are looking at malnutrition for the poor man or the poor woman who might not be able to afford 3 square meal. So I think that government must be up and doing enough of the production. Every time we are encouraging people, produce, and we neglect the market that needs to be available for us to sell. We have to look in the area of creating a lot more markets, helping our farmers find more off-takers, so that this issue of I'm not getting buyers, I'm experiencing post-harvest loss will become a thing of the past.
Okay. Thank you very much. Ejura Manye. She is a farmer and agribusiness analyst. Thank you for your insight. We're also joined by Bismarck Norty, Executive Director for the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana, who shared their insights on this very developing story in Ejura, where farmers are abandoning their farms and threatening to not go into serious cultivation because they are having their food product like maize rotten because of lack of access to critical markets. Now,